and welcome to Fact Schmacks. It's the podcast good enough to get you a C.
Minus.
My name's Matt, and I've got a story to tell you.
And my name's Kev. I have a story to interrupt.
Hey, Kevin.
Hey, Matthew.
How's it going, bud?
It's going pretty good. How are you?
It's going. I'm okay. You know how I'm going.
The lies we tell ourselves.
Right? Yeah, let's not talk about how I'm doing. But what I could do with is some factory schmactory. Our last episode, we didn't even record yesterday. Our last episode, I wore the dunce cap. I think we've reverted to an episode-by-episode dunce cap situation now.
Yes. I can't wait for us to go to video format so we can just witness the dunce cap.
Yes.
That'll be great.
It's going to be super.
Speaking of caps and hats, Matt, you like hats? You wear a lot of hats, don't you?
Well, I've been known to wear a few hats.
Yeah. Your dad, you do a job.
Uh-huh.
You're a podcaster.
I've got a ball cap and a toque.
Yeah. Well, we all wear a lot of hats. And,
don't we?
Let's talk about some musicians who had some interesting hats they wore outside of their profession.
Okay. I like it.
Fact or schmack, Matt.
Yes.
Steely Dan's founding member and Doobie Brothers guitarist, Jeffrey Allen Skunk Baxter's interest in recording technology led him to become a counterterrorism expert for the U.S. Department of Defense.
Okay.
Fact or schmacked. David Robinson, who is the drummer of the Cars and is also credited with naming the band, is actually a mechanic and a classic car aficionado.
Okay.
Fact or schmacked, after leaving Faith No More, guitarist Jim Martin became a competitive giant pumpkin farmer and property manager.
That's the one that I have the least amount of trouble believing.
Yeah, that's the one. That's one where you're like, yeah, that's legit.
That checks out 100%. The one I have a hard time believing is the counterterrorism one. The guitar player for the Doobie Brothers.
So he was Steely Dan's founding member and also a guitar player for the Doobie Brothers.
Uh-huh.
And he's been with like a bunch of other acts. You know him to see him.
Sure. Is this before he was famous he was doing this, or is this after? This is
after.
Oh, okay. So he's like in his Steven Seagal, sheriff of a small town. I'm a counterterrorism expert because I know something about acoustic equipment.
I don't know. All I know is the fact you were given. You know what our research policy is.
Yeah. Very thin. Very, very thin.
There's a low barrier to entry here.
For sure. And then the middle one. There.
The middle one is
Cars.
David Robinson, who's the drummer of the Cars, also named the Cars, and is a mechanic and classic car aficionado.
So aficionado. He's really into cars.
It would appear so. So, what do you think?
I think the pumpkin one is 1,000% true. Because I don't think you possess the imagination for that.
Don't you though?
I don't.
All because right, we're gonna get real creative here soon.
It's gonna be so. Or the lie's gonna be like that. Turns out what Mike Patton did for a while. I'm going to go.
Come on.
Oh boy.
You know what you want to go with.
I know what I want to go with.
Let's hear it.
You know what? I'm going to go with the Cars one.
Oh, you devil.
Yeah. I'm going to go with the Cars one.
You son of a bitch. I did that to myself, didn't I? I just showed my poker hand. God damn it. So that's what you say is the schmacked? Or is the truth? You think that's the schmacked?
I think that's the schmacked.
You're right. Skunk is actually a Defense Department consultant.
Okay.
He got into it has something to do with like recording and stuff. Sure. I don't know exactly. It's a very bizarre fact that I thought I would get you on. And I feel like if I kept my mouth shut, I might have.
You know what it was?
Okay.
for me? Do you want to know the real reason I chose that answer?
Why?
Because it was the simplest. It was the simplest one. It was the easiest. It was the one that I could most imagine you making up.
The Cars one?
Yeah.
Oh, buddy. I can make up some extreme facts.
I know, but just out of the three ones, now this is information
you know what? You're
that
right.
you're going to use
just gone over the
against
top.
me.
Yeah.
This is information you're going to use against me, but it just was like,
absolutely, it is 100%.
Yeah,
no,
that it was just too. It was too simple.
Duly noted. Okay,
fair
enough.
Can't wait for that to come back and bite me in the ass in the future.
I have some honorable mentions. You want to hear them?
Yes.
So these are a little more commonly known. Vanilla Ice. You know, he flips houses and has a DIY show, the Vanilla Ice Project.
Yep.
Lead guitarist Dan Spitz left Anthrax to become one of the best watchmakers in the world.
No kidding.
Yeah, I don't know.
Everybody wants to get a little
standards.
spits on their wrist.
A little spits on their... Oh, God. So if you're familiar with the band The Idols, which I discovered The Idols last year and absolutely love them.
Yeah, that old Danny Nedelko. Good song.
Oh, great song. Yeah. So they have their one guitarist. He's a bit of a wild man on stage. Mark Bowen. He's a dentist.
What?
Yeah, dude. And I'm pretty sure
that
I'm pretty sure I heard their drummer is an accountant.
That's funny.
And they're just like, they're a great band, man. I really dig them. MC Hammer's a preacher.
Okay.
There's that, you know. I don't know
That's
if you
legit.
knew that.
I did know that.
It's too
I did not
legit.
know that, actually. I don't know why I said I did know that.
It's too legit?
It is too legit.
You didn't even bite on that?
I thought I had said that right before.
Oh, you said legit, and I said too legit.
I think you
Let's
just might have missed
quit.
mine too. Yeah. Or I'll throw a fit. This bit is shit.
So let's just edit that out.
Speaking of shit.
Oh.
Yeah, I want to talk to you about Commodus and the beginning of the end of the Roman Empire.
The Commode.
The Commode. He's not actually the Commode. I do not believe is named after Commodus.
Well, I don't know. It will be by the end of this show.
I knew you'd glom right onto that, though.
So with that introduction.
Well, I suppose I was kind of asking for it with that introduction. Do you? Does the name Commodus ring a bell for you?
I'm aware it exists. I've heard it. I don't know the story. So
okay. Well, Commodus is a guy. He was one of the emperors of Rome.
I vaguely know that. Like I know he was a emperor.
I guarantee. Well, I don't guarantee, but I would say there's a very, very solid chance that you've seen him depicted on screen by Joaquin Phoenix.
Oh,
Gladiator.
from Gladiator. Oh,
yes.
Dude, that was such a good movie back in the day. It probably still is. I haven't seen it in a long time.
I think like the visual stuff of it holds up super well. We're actually going to be talking about, we're going to be touching on the story. So it did take some dramatic liberties with, what happened in that period. I don't think anything like crazy. I think they made a good movie out of an interesting story, and like there's nothing wrong with that.
He was killed
by
a
creative
gladiator.
license. He was killed by a wrestler.
Oh, all right. Okay. We're going to have fun with this episode. Brother.
So Commodus, he was the son of Marcus Aurelius.
Yeah, we talked about him.
We have not talked about Marcus Aurelius.
God damn it. I'm sure we have.
I don't think we have.
Doesn't he have something to do with killing Caesar?
No.
Who was that?
That's Brutus.
Brutus.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I do.
Marcus Aurelius was the last of the 5 good emperors. You know why they were called the 5 good emperors?
I can't imagine that they were actually good.
No, really, it is because they were pretty good and there was 5 of them in a row.
Really?
Yep. That's
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Anticlimactic?
Kind of. Commodus is the son of Marcus Aurelius, like I said. And if you can believe it, Commodus is actually the first Roman emperor to have grown up in the palace, so to speak. He's the first Roman emperor who is born to an emperor who is like currently the emperor. Every other person before this who became emperor, even if their son ultimately succeeded them, they didn't. Their kids would have been fully formed people by the time person A becomes emperor. So they didn't grow up in the palace or anything like that. In a lot of cases, before this, you would have grown up like the son of some regional politician who then later, through circumstance and iron will and all, this, that, and the other thing, turns out to be the emperor. But you're already like a fully fledged adult, right? He's the first kid to grow up in this environment and then later become emperor. Now, the reign of Commodus, or really the reign of Marcus Aurelius, marks the high point of the Roman Empire. Not like that was the best it ever was, but that's the point where the tide broke and started to pull back.
Okay, so for perspective, let's call back to some of our previous Rome episodes.
Sure.
How long after, say, Julius Caesar are we?
We're like 180 years or so.
Okay, so fair bit.
Fair bit. And there has been 180 years of what you would consider to be good governance for the most part. There's been bad governors in there, but in general, the system has really held together and Rome has been expanding. Rome has been winning. After Marcus Aurelius dies, Rome is losing. They're abandoning territory. This is the beginning of what you call the decline of the Roman Empire. Now, fun fact, the decline of the Roman Empire lasts like 300 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's not like things just fell apart overnight, but this is
very slow fall.
Very slow fall. There'll be good leadership here and there that can kind of like hold the walls from caving in for a little bit, but at the end of the day, it's just going to be,
shit show after shit show.
We've reached the high water mark of what they could do, and now it's just slowly falling apart. It also the reign of Commodus also kind of marks the end of the Principate. Do you remember what the Principate was? This is going way back to our first episode, and I don't mean this to test you.
Well, that's good because I think you would know how that would go.
We talked about this in the first episode. We talked about Julius Caesar and how he couldn't just say he was the emperor, or Augustus Caesar, not Julius Caesar. He couldn't just say he was the emperor, right? He had to kind of couch everything he was doing inside this veneer of republicanism. So it was called the Principate. He was the princeps. He was the first citizen. There's this kind of like illusion that really the Senate's in control, but really the emperor is the guy who's pulling the strings behind the scenes. Commodus's reign is really when that starts to fall apart and it starts to become more of like, I'm explicitly in charge and I'm explicitly in charge through fear or through, bread and circus or, military might, whatever. People try a lot of different ways to stay in power. He was, like I said, the son of an emperor. We heard another thing we discussed in the first episode is sometimes there would be emperors and co-emperors, I had said, and the emperor would be the Augustus and the co-emperor, the person in the subordinate position, would be the Caesar. Commodus was named Caesar at a young age because Marcus Aurelius wanted to make sure that when he passed on, his son succeeded him with little
resistance.
With little resistance, right? Make it seem inevitable right from the get-go.
Okay.
Now, Commodus, though, he's not at all like Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius is like a good soldier, a good leader, a hard man. Commodus has grown up in the palace. He's accustomed to a life of leisure. That's not really his bag at all. He becomes Augustus at a pretty young age. His dad died of, I think, a plague. And after dad dies, son's in charge. He's like 19 years old, and he's in charge of the largest empire the world's ever seen. How do you think that goes?
I mean, he grew up with it, right? You would think he would have an idea of the workings of government.
Yeah, you'd think you would have a strong sort of sense of, where the levers of power are and how to exercise this, that, and the other thing.
Or was he just out chasing tail for the first?
Yeah, no, it was more like that.
Okay, fair enough.
What ended up happening is he really was only interested in kind of pursuing his lifestyle. And in the very early part of his reign, he was very easily controlled by, kind of the existing palace staff. The advisors and things, they would tell him what to do, and he was pretty much content to go along with it. But that could only last for so long. Eventually, he did decide to become his own man. But his idea of what his own man was and his idea of what was good for the empire and what was good for him were very different, than most emperors who had come before. He had no interest in territorial expansion. He really only had interest in throwing games, in big parties, lavish celebrations. He wanted to throw, circuses all the time. They cost a lot of money, but that's what he wanted to do, right?
Were they huge?
They were huge. Now, throwing these big old huge parties and, big old games and stuff, that was actually a cornerstone of one of his blocks of power, which was to keep the masses happy. If you keep the people in Rome, the million or so people living in Rome happy.
Fat and stupid.
Keep them fat and stupid, you're pretty good, right? His the other cornerstone of his rule was the army. You keep the army happy, you're also good. So basically, screw the old people in the Senate. Don't care about them. Keep the army happy. Keep the people happy. I'm untouchable. And to be honest, that was a pretty good strategy for a while. The problem was, though, he had no grand vision for where the empire was supposed to go. All he really wanted to do was throw these parties. And he kind of became more and more divorced from reality as he got older and older. I imagine it was a pretty stressful life living in Rome at the time, right? Not living in Rome, but being the emperor at the time. It's a very big prize. Everybody wants it. So he survives a couple kind of assassination attempts, but every time there's one of these attempts, he gets more and more paranoid.
Yeah, it's like Game of Thrones.
It's a lot like Game of Thrones.
We've brought it up a few times.
Yes. He goes through a couple rounds of kind of culling his inner circle as he's getting more and more reclusive. But as he's getting more and more reclusive, he's throwing, the only place he's showing up is at these games where he will participate often as a gladiator. And he will, I'm using air quotes here, but he will fight men who are either crippled beforehand or have dull blades and have to fight him with a sharp blade. That part of the film is kind of true. He would stage these rigged matches where, he could wind up on top. He claimed that he was the son of Hercules, or not the son, the reincarnation of Hercules. And he just kind of, in a really big way, bought into his own bullshit.
We need to do an episode on Greek mythology.
Yep.
That'd be fantastic.
That would be.
He's a bit of a turd.
He's a bit of a turd.
When you say he calls his inner circle, you're talking about killing. He just has people off.
He just has people, yeah. And
Dude, he
starts doing something that's an old trick, that Julius Caesar did, that Augustus Caesar did. He starts running out of money. Well, just take it from people. Trumped up treason charges. Now your estate is mine, and you're either banished or you're just gone. So it really was kind of a reign of terror, or at least for certain parts of the population. But as he got, it just got more and more ridiculous, right? Eventually, what happened to him is that, 3 people in his inner circle found out that he had them slated to be executed at the next games that he was hosting. So they're like, oh, fuck, it's us or him. So they try to poison him, but he figures out that he's been poisoned. He throws up, and he doesn't know what to do, so he retreats to his private bathroom or private bath. Sorry, I don't know if it's a bathroom. I don't know if it's this commode. Anyways.
Commodus's commode.
Commodus's personal commode. Anyways, they sent a wrestler, which was his kind of personal training partner, this guy named Narcissus, in to just strangle him to death, and that's how Commodus died.
What? I thought you said he died from a wrestler.
Yeah, his training partner who was a wrestler.
I thought it was
Narcissus.
In the ring and big dramatic.
No, just quietly in his room at night.
What?
Now, yeah.
All right. So I have a couple questions here.
Okay.
Narcissus?
Like, we're not done.
No, I'm curious. Like, Narcissus, was he like really into himself?
Yeah, Narcissus, I wonder.
Like, he was just already in the bathroom checking himself out in the mirror, and Commodus came in and he's like choked him out.
Yeah.
It's like
You've
looking
interrupted
at his muscles as he's choking him. He's like, look at my muscles. They are the best muscles.
Apparently, Commodus did put up quite a fight. We'll give him that. He did not go quietly, apparently.
Do you think they had that short, bald guy from wrestling, and he was just like, all right, take your corners. And then they trash talked each other?
I think you're thinking of a boxing ref.
No, there was that little. There was like a little wrestler guy from the 80s, 90s.
I don't know.
You're thinking of the bald guy.
Yeah.
No, dude, 100% this was wrestling.
Okay.
How do I know this and you don't
I know, like,
this?
I've got wrestle brain. What's going on here?
I almost need to know
Now,
who this guy is.
Any other questions about, Commodus, his reign, or how he went out like an absolute chump in the bathroom?
I mean, no, because it's kind of a lackluster story. Like, I thought he would die in like the ring or something, and it would be a super cool story where like some slave triumphed, but
Nope.
You
Nope.
know?
Just yep. It turns out that he was trying to murder some people in his inner circle, and they just found out about it early and decided that it was way better to murder him instead. Now, something like this is hard to pull off, though. We talked about this in the first episode. We talked about how when you're going to kill somebody who's the head of state, not that we're advocating anybody do that,
No,
but if one
definitely
were
not.
to, in this day and age, you need to have the successor waiting in the wings, right? You can't just, you can't make the same mistake that the assassins of Julius Caesar made, and have nobody waiting in the wings to kind of assume that all this executive power. So they had this guy named Pertinax. He's this old guy, but he's kind of well respected. He's kind of known as a bit of a hard ass, but they figure that he's the sort of guy that they can slip in there. He's old. Nobody's really going to raise too much of a fuss because, that's kind of buying time to figure out who he picks as his successor. And, hopefully we're right back on track after this whole Commodus situation, right?
Well, hold up.
Yep.
Does this story end with a horse getting its hoo-ha shoved with a fist, like the Persia decision for the king? This is a callback to, was that episode 1 of Persia?
No, the Persia one was episode like 3 or 4, maybe. Persia
No,
Inc.
but we did Persia Inc. and we did another one.
Yeah.
The
Oh,
Empire
yeah.
Strikes Back or something.
Yeah. What was it?
It was either one of, you know what? Go listen to both of those if you haven't already.
Yeah, I think they're
There's
both
a
actually
very
pretty solid
juicy
episodes.
tidbit in there
Yeah, it's very
involving how they
juicy.
came to the decision of who would be the emperor or leader, whatever they called them in that time. So there's no horse hoo-ha at the end of this story?
There is not.
Okay, that's cool.
I'm so sorry to disappoint you.
No, that's all right.
So they'd chosen this old guy, but there's this dynamic that had been going on and becoming increasingly problematic within the kind of palace structure. And I haven't addressed it yet, but we're going to talk about it now. And that's the Praetorian Guard. The Praetorian Guard is the guard that protects the palace. They're the people who
Secret
are
Service.
basically
Of Rome.
Capitol Police. They, however you want to figure that out. But their job is to kind of police generally the palace grounds. They're kind of the soldiers inside the city. They enforce the rules in Rome quite a bit. They're kind of like a police force, but not really. They're just kind of there keeping things in order.
Mostly for the emperor.
Mostly for the emperor, but they're kind of they're the emperor's bodyguards, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at a certain point, there came to be a dynamic where there was a bit of an understanding that the emperor sure as shit had better come through with some money for these people who are protecting him day and night, or they just might not be protecting him day and night. So they were slowly extorting the emperors is what they were doing, asking for more and more. And it had been kind of getting more and more unreasonable. So while this succession is going on, while they're trying to get Pertinax into the position of emperor, one of the things they have to do is they have to get the Praetorian Guard in on it. The Praetorian Guard, they loved Commodus because he was very good to them. So to get them on board, they make all sorts of promises about what Pertinax is going to do for them, how much he's going to be paying them once he's emperor. And so they begrudgingly agree, all right, well, I guess, Commodus is dead. They said that Commodus died of an embolism. They didn't tell anybody that he was murdered. But they're like, well, he's dead. We got this old guy, I guess. I mean, we're going to get paid, right? So I guess we're fine. Well, Pertinax, cold light of day, looks at a situation and goes, Commodus didn't really leave us a whole lot of money in the treasury. I know that there was some promises that were made, but I quite honestly cannot afford to pay what's been promised to you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you half. We're going to call it that. How's that? Well, that was not that. A group of 300 Praetorian guards showed up at the palace. Tempers flared, and Pertinax wound up dead in the ensuing scuffle. So now we're in the situation we were talking about before, but there is nobody who is going to step into this power vacuum. This was not planned. This is the emperor's bodyguard essentially getting mad and murdering him. Whole thing was very slapdash. However, the leader of the Praetorian Guard, he realized, never let a good crisis go to waste. What this is actually an opportunity. Because, hey, we're in charge of the capital. Really, isn't it us who decides who the emperor is anyways? Who's going to stop us? So what they decide to do is send out word that they're going to be entertaining offers for the position of emperor.
Some tryouts?
Yeah. Well, it's who's going to pay us the most. So it's not so much a tryout as they're literally auctioning off the seat of power.
So these people would have to do you have
questions about
wealth?
How this is? What's that?
People would have to come in with their own private wealth?
Partially with their own private wealth, but also, they're just committing to put, if you're going to commit to put the resources of state that much towards us, if that's what you're going to do for us. So it came down to two different guys who were bidding against each other. And one of them won. A guy named Didius Julianus.
For some reason, I picture like Rudy Giuliani.
The Praetorian Guards forced the Senate at sword point to adopt this new emperor, and they're thinking, job done, right? Like, time to sit back and enjoy the fruits of our labor. We're going to get paid by this new guy. This is a perfect plan. Absolutely nothing wrong with this plan at all. Yep, just the 4,000 of us here in the city, totally in control of the entire empire, right? Well, that's not how things work at all, actually. Power in ancient Rome didn't flow from who occupied the capital. It came from who controlled the legions. And when the three most influential generals in the empire heard that Pertinax was dead, like first they heard Commodus is dead and Pertinax is in. Well, he's a military guy and they know who he is, and he's old. So they're like, all right, well, whatever. We'll the new plan is figure out how I'm going to succeed Pertinax, right? Then they hear that Pertinax is dead, and there's this new clown on the throne who's only there because he was wealthy and offered to pay the Praetorian Guards. Well, quite frankly, they just did not accept that as a good situation for them. They each decided to not support this guy at all. They immediately sat down to try and figure out who the real emperor should be. These three generals, we got a guy named Pesinius Niger, we got Clodius Albinus, and we got Septimus Severus. That is such a fucking awesome name, Septimus Severus.
That sounds like a Halloween costume or something, or like a monster in like a RPG.
Or just like any name in Elder Scrolls.
Yeah, totally. Dude, is there a new one coming out soon? What's the deal?
No, it's not forever. There's Starfield is the next game they're putting out. It's a new series.
Are you looking forward to that?
Yeah, I think it looks really good. To it. Yeah, and then it's Elder Scrolls after that. Apparently, they put a lot of work into their technology. We'll see.
All right. Well,
yeah. So they all kind of decided that it should be, me, who should be the emperor.
Enter the horse.
Nope. Nope. What they did was they had a big old civil war. Not to get too in the weeds on their big old civil war, but it was Septimus Severus who wound up on top.
Okay.
Now, as he got closer and closer to Rome, where technically poor old Didius Julianus was still in charge, he's throwing out increasingly, maybe it's the word I'm looking for, pathetic sort of overtures. At first he's like, hey, how about I let you run half the empire? And the guy with the big army's like, no. How about I just take the whole thing because I have manpower and you bought this.
Okay, so I got to ask you, an army's closing in on you. Before I know how the story ends, which I'm sure it ends with the guy dying, but I've been surprised before. Anyhow, army's closing in on you.
Yep.
You've got this empire that he wants, and he's going to come and take it, and he's going to kill you.
Yeah.
Don't you just maybe just go, you know what? All right, you can have it. Like, I'm just going to go, like, give me like a little house over there. I'll go do my thing. Like,
he should have been like the third guy in the second triumvirate who that was the Augustus Marcus Aurelius, and then a third guy, I think it was Lepidus was his name. And he just made this like really half-hearted attempt at like shooting his shot, and it didn't work at all. And he was just like, you know what? I'm done. And he just went and lived. He just went and lived in like quiet life for the rest of his
peace and quiet. That's the thing, Like they probably could depart that position with enough money to live comfortably for the rest of their lives.
Mm-hmm.
I would have worked that out. I'd have been like, hey man, shoot me like $100K a year, and I'll just chill out. Give me a house. No big deal. I won't ask for much.
You don't want rival power bases around. And anybody who used to be king, that's someone whose banner that people can flock to. It just is. And so you have to deal with it.
I guess.
I think in a lot of cases that these people just, they wait too long. They hit a point where they can't walk away anymore. There was maybe a chance where he could have walked away right at the beginning. And been like, you know what, this was kind of silly. Let's figure out a way to transfer power to where it makes sense, or broker a deal or something. But he didn't. He waited too long.
I totally hot potato it.
He knew what the stakes were, right?
If I was emperor and the army was closing in, I'd be like, Matt, I've anointed you emperor.
You're the new guy.
Yeah. Here, catch.
The Praetorian Guard that he had paid so much money to, by the way, just completely dissolved and ran away once the army.
Yeah, because they knew better.
For sure.
Yeah.
What ended up happening?
Mercenaries. They're like,
what ended up happening was they arranged a kind of pardon for themselves with the new guy on the condition that they hand over the old leadership and whoever killed the Emperor Pertinax, which they did, and then those guys got their asses murdered. Didius Julianus also got his ass executed. Apparently, his last words were, "What evil have I done? Who have I killed?" He had ruled for 66 days.
Oh, that sucks.
Yep. This entire period post Commodus's death is known as the Year of Five Emperors. There was Pertinax, Didius Julianus, and then you got three different generals, each declaring themselves emperor and having a civil war to figure out, who it's really going to be.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah. I never heard of that.
Yeah. So just like with a lot of, these stories, I've left out a ton of detail to try to just encompass.
That's what we do, man.
Yeah. Well, and also to encompass the, the narrative arc that I was trying to look, this story of, the fall of a bad emperor, maybe there's a chance for things to get back on the right foot, but instead things just devolve into total chaos so quick. Quick.
So that's kind of established as the pinnacle of Rome, and then everything else was kind of downhill from there.
Everything's downhill from there, yeah.
Right.
That's the end of what you consider like the golden age of Rome.
Sure.
After Marcus Aurelius.
Was Rome, like, what is the longest empire in history that you're aware of? The Roman Empire?
Yeah. Because I don't know, because there's some Bronze Age, no, it'd probably be like the Egyptian Empire from the Bronze Age. I don't know. I'd have to look that up. There'd be a lot of, Rome was like, depending on how you define it, can be just about 2,000 years, I think. That's pretty long,
That's a good haul. So that's a whole bunch BC and a whole bunch.
Yeah, it's from like 470 BC. And then if you're considering like the Holy Roman Empire, I think that thing doesn't like topple over until like 1400. So you're like 2,000
15,
years.
16.
1600 years. Close enough, But I'm pretty sure that the Egyptian, dynasties, they went back further than that. There'd be like Assyrian, the people in the old world knew that they were in a world that was really old. So I think there's probably, some Bronze Age empires that would have had a longer span, but I don't know. Great question. Great question.
You just kind of you think to yourself like, okay, Rome, they built everything up from scratch. They refined a lot of their government and civil processes to a point where they had, they were technologically the most advanced people at the time. They were culturally the most advanced people at the time. Give or take.
I think that's a very Eurocentric way of looking at it.
Sure, maybe, but
I don't know. Like, I don't know what the comparable technology in China was like at the time, or Japan. Like, I just don't know. I think that's, and I don't want to make an ass of myself by.
Yeah, fair enough. But the point I'm trying to get at is that you look at like North America, and we're 1692 we got discovered by Columbus, apparently. 1692 or 17?
Discovered. No, it's 14.
1642. There's like the little rhyme thing.
1642, Columbus sailed the ocean blue.
1642.
Yes.
Okay. So
this is sad.
Yeah, it's one of those things that like you knew forever.
Well, we didn't learn too much about it, right?
No.
In Canada, it wasn't as big a part of our story, so you might have spent a day on Columbus.
So you look at 1642. Now it's whatever. You got like 6, 7, 400, 500-ish years. Very young. Mm-hmm. And considering we were British, like even America up until 1867. No. God damn it. When was the American Revolution?
Buddy, you're throwing out dates. Like, why don't you just say when the event happened and let people fill in the blanks themselves?
All right. Okay. Yeah, that's probably a better way to do this because I can't remember shit. So, okay. So you've got up until they declare independence.
Mm-hmm.
Till now.
Yeah.
That's so young.
So young.
In history. Do you think that could you see North America being 2,000 years? Do you see anything being 2,000 years at this point? Like seems like a lot.
That seems there's a lot going on there, I don't know. I don't want to be a pessimist.
I don't either, but sometimes I'm like, are we on the decline? Because I feel like the heyday was like the 50s, 60s for like the economy. There was like a middle class,
Yeah. Remember when there used to, I don't remember when there used to be middle class, but we keep getting told that was the thing that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird to think about, are we on the decline or are we still on the way up? And we're just, we're just hitting some little wrinkles here and there.
Who knows?
It's curious to see. I wonder how they'll talk about us in the future.
That's I often wonder what the eulogy on the baby boom generation is going to be, and I don't think it's going to be great. Personally, I think about that a lot in terms of like, looking at like Ontario's heading into an election, right? I'm a bit of a polling junkie, so one of the big issues in Ontario right now is long-term care. There's a real issue with quality long-term care for
it's terrible.
It's terrible for elders.
It's elderly warehousing.
It's what it is. Yep. And I find it kind of fascinating, just to me, the amount of people who are elderly who are voting for the party who's like making that worse.
Yeah.
To me, like, and I guess it, nobody's a single issue voter and stuff like that. I don't know. I'm not, that I guess that's putting a lot of people into a group. It's just kind of alarming.
Yeah.
To a certain extent,
But it's funny how people vote. Like we're a union town here. Like we're probably one of the biggest union towns going in Canada, definitely in Ontario, I'd think. And it's always conservative government here in this.
Yeah.
Locally, right?
Yeah.
Always conservative. And those guys could care less about the unions, the working folk, the everyday guys.
Well, they do. They care about oil and gas workers, and that's it. Right? Everybody else can go to hell.
And that might be a big reason because of the oil and gas here, but who knows? It's just weird to kind of think how we'll be remembered.
Yeah, I've spent a lot of time, this is maybe going back to your earlier point about are we on the decline. I've spent a lot of time thinking about, what the decline of the Roman Empire looked like, why the Roman Empire declined, things like that. Like these people built up this giant institution with these giant pillars that kind of held the whole thing together. And then one by one, these pillars start to crumble. When you look at our system, what are the pillars? And are they crumbling? Like for me, I look at the middle class. The middle class is crumbling. I don't think that's good. I think that's a really bad sign.
It's going to be like a caste system where you're either really rich or you're a peasant.
Yeah. I mean, not to be alarmist. I don't think that, but I think that is kind of the way things are heading. I think, we need to do a better job of, we need to stop villainizing unions. Like I know that's not an issue for you, but there's a lot of anti-union rhetoric out there, and it's kind of alarming. Like
it's weird when I run into it, and I'm just like, man, like,
don't you like good working conditions?
Yeah, and you know what the thing is like, I've been in some like, I've had things happen in my job with my union that like are serious events. Like someone could have got really hurt. Millions of dollars in equipment could have gotten ruined. Yeah. Like tens of millions of dollars. And it's funny, like sometimes you feel like, everyone's still out for themselves, even though it's a union. But when it comes down to it, when shit goes down, they circle the wagons and they bring everything in and take care of you. And at the end of the day, like working for them, I was working, making probably one of the best wages you could make as a tradesperson.
Yeah.
That was the kind of work that we were doing and it was good. But the thing about it is, people get upset about it. They think you're greedy, you're bloated, you're lazy. Like, man, like we work hard. And
you're taking real risks with your body too.
Huge risks, man. Huge. Everything is dirty and brutal and bad for you. And it's, it's hard work and we're out there and, you get 2 15s and a half-hour break and show up 15 minutes early and don't leave till the clock runs out. And that's your day. Like it's an honest day's work. Mm-hmm. And I don't, like some unions maybe are bloated. Like I don't get sick days, but the thing is like rising tides float all boats.
Yep.
Right. Yep. So I think the minimum wage, if the minimum wage kept pace with inflation and with corporate wages and the house of prices, minimum wage should be like $40 or $50 by now.
It should be.
Should be.
Or housing shouldn't be doing what it's doing. Like that's
ridiculous.
Yeah.
But it's doing it in the whole world.
Yeah.
Like all North America, the housing is just getting beyond people's means.
Yeah. I don't understand. Is it like a phenomenon of just too many landlords taking up the supply because everyone wants to have an income property, or I don't know.
I don't know what it is, but I just know that like something's got to give, right?
Just a little thought I just had. I've had this thought before, but it is kind of liberating to have a podcast where, you know, the central premise is that we're kind of idiots, because it's nice to be able to just be like, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
don't have to solve this. I don't know.
We don't have to solve this. Yeah, it's just kind of like, I don't know. I'm just talking shit.
Yep.
Yeah. I think we've talked about this on the show. Every now and then I'm like, could I do this seriously? Like, could I do a serious podcast and like put research and time and try to be like, not scripted, but like do a serious job, like an investigative kind of, whatever.
An expose? No. Was that what you were going to say?
Well, like, just like, like, have you ever listened to like The Daily? It's like a New York Times kind of news thing. I like it. It's a good show. And the guy's like, he's serious, but he's kind of conversational. But he's talking about serious issues. And I just think to myself, like, nah, like, I just want to talk bullshit to my friend. Like, at the end of the day, that's what it entertains me.
I saw a tweet today. I meant to send it to you, but I did not. And it was something about my dream job being the person that reacts to the well-researched podcast host.
Yeah, like if we ever do a crossover show with somebody who's super serious, like they would get so angry. It'd be like 5 minutes, it would be over.
I don't know. You never know. You never know. We bring a nice little energy here. We bring a nice energy.
Yeah, every now and then.
Every now and again.
That was a very interesting tale you've told me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe it's a good time for some Kev's closing facts.
I think
and
so.
By
Bring
facts,
us home.
I mean one single fact.
So Kev's closing fact.
Yeah, not facts. 11. Do you know
11?
11.
11.
11. Do you know what the significance of 11 is?
Do I know what the it's Remembrance Day, 11/11/11. It's 2 ones beside each other.
Matt, it's the number of U.S. nuclear bombs lost in accidents and never recovered.
Creepy, terrifying.
Yeah, isn't that scary?
That is scary.
All right, sleep well, everybody. Good night. Goodbye.
Wait a minute.
Good day.
Wait a minute.
Oh,
wait a minute.
Okay.
This is something I heard recently, and it blew my mind, and I've just remembered it. So I'm gonna add my own little closing fact in here.
Okay. Here we go.
Closing little explanation, I guess. Have you ever heard of the Monty Hall problem?
No.
Okay, the Monty
Python?
No, Monty Hall was a show. Basically, there's a car behind one door, there's a goat behind 2 doors. Here's how the show works.
That's like our episodes. Like one's going to be good, and there's going to be 2 goats.
So you pick a door, right? Okay. Any one of those 3 doors. They're not going to open it yet. What they're going to do is they're going to open one of the other 2 doors and show you a goat, and then offer you to switch to the one remaining door. Now, do you think you should switch? Do you think it matters if you switch?
No, it's like Schrodinger's goat.
It actually turns out that switching is always the best choice. Always the best choice.
Why?
Statistically. And it's
because the first one is a 1 in 3 chance and the second one's a 50-50.
Essentially. A good way of visualizing this, this is a way that I saw in a YouTube video that like changed my perception of it and made it totally make sense.
We'll link it.
Yes. Imagine there is a 3-sided die, right?
Okay.
It's got 3 doors on it. It's got two goats in a car. If you roll that die, there's 3 possible ways that the die can land. If we say just whatever winds up on top, that's the option that you're picking. The car only winds up on top 1 of the 3 times.
Sure.
So in the 2 other scenarios, they're going to show you a goat and the other door is the right one. Do you see how it works?
Good night, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Fact Schmacks.
We hope you enjoyed our show. If you want to hear more, be sure to check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/factschmacks.
Or you can check us out on Facebook or on YouTube or on twitter.com@factschmackedpod.
We also have a website, factschmacks.xyz, because we know you haven't had enough yet.
Sure.